He looked straight at me, holding the checkbook like I was the only man left at the table. And maybe, in a way, I was. Everyone else had gotten up, drinks in hand, laughing, drifting toward the corner where Lorna stood, shoulder to shoulder with him. That guy with the smug little chain around his neck and the shirt buttoned one too low for any occasion that didn't involve a yacht. They were laughing over something she said. I couldn't hear it, but I could see the way she leaned in, like she forgot whose name was on the reservation. And then the waiter whispered again, "Sir, whenever you're ready." Right. I reached into my jacket, pretending to check my wallet, just to buy myself 10 more seconds of pretending I wasn't being publicly, pathetically humiliated at my own birthday. I had no idea who invited him. Micah, that was his name. Lorna had shouted it across the rooftop when he arrived, like a kid calling out to Santa Claus. She even kissed him on the cheek. I don't think she's kissed me on the cheek in 6 months. Not even out of habit. And now he was the life of the party. I was just the reason it existed. I looked around the table and realized my slice of cake was untouched. Everyone else had devoured theirs, plates scattered with crumbs and strawberry sauce. Mine was still perfectly intact. I guess no one even noticed I hadn't been sitting there for the last 20 minutes. Because I hadn't. I'd gone downstairs to sit in the lobby. Not to take a call. Not to smoke. Just to sit. To disappear for a moment and see if anyone would notice. No one did. When I came back, my seat was filled. He was in it. Micah, right there in my chair, showing Lorna something on his phone while she gasped like she was watching fireworks. I stood there like a ghost. A ghost with a wallet and a reservation. And now here I was, holding the check, trying to keep my fingers from trembling, trying not to look like someone whose wife had emotionally ditched him at the exact moment life was supposed to feel celebratory. So I paid. For the cake I didn't eat. For the guests I didn't know. For the dress she bought without telling me. And then I left. No goodbyes. No excuses. I just walked out. I figured maybe she'd follow. She didn't. Not that night. But when she finally did, 2 days later, with mascara smudged and questions she wasn't ready to hear, I realized something had snapped in her. And I wasn't the one who broke it. The silence was worse than any fight. You'd think if your husband walked out of his own birthday party, someone might call, or text, or care. But no, my phone didn't buzz once that night. I kept staring at it, hoping I'd see Lorna's name light up the screen, maybe followed by a simple, "Where are you?" But it stayed dark. Like me, I slept on the pull-out couch in my office. There was half a stale sandwich in the mini fridge and a paper towel I used as a napkin and a pillow. At around 3:17 a.m., I checked her Instagram. And guess what? She'd posted a photo of the party. The caption said, "Magical night with magical people dizzy." And I wasn't even in the picture. Micah was. Front and center, flashing that smug grin like he just inherited my life. I don't know what hit harder, the fact that I wasn't there, or that no one noticed I wasn't. The next morning, I came home quietly, just to grab a change of clothes and pretend I hadn't just had a mental breakdown in a swivel chair. Lorna was in the kitchen making coffee. She didn't even look surprised. Just sipped her latte like nothing happened and said, "You didn't stay late." That was it. That was her reaction to me leaving my own birthday. No hug. No apology. Not even a fake excuse. I said, "Yeah, the party wasn't really for me, was it?" And she blinked like I'd asked her what year it was. Then she said, "Don't be dramatic, Mason. You were in a mood." A mood? I watched my wife drape herself over another man while I cut my own cake and left in silence. And now I'm in a mood. I told her I needed space. She said, "From what?" Like this was all imaginary. Like my sanity was the issue, not her behavior. That day, I took a walk through the park near our apartment. I needed fresh air, but instead I got a phone call from Thomas, my cousin, the only one who showed up late to the party. He said something strange. He said, "Hey, who was the guy Lorna was all over last night? That wasn't her brother or something, was it?" I laughed, but not because it was funny. "No," I said. "That was just Micah, her coworker." Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Well, if I didn't know better, I would have assumed they were married." Those words stuck with me the rest of the day. Married. To him. I started remembering things that didn't add up. How she suddenly had more late meetings, how she changed her phone password last month, how she'd stopped asking me how my day was, how she stopped noticing me altogether. Still, I didn't want to accuse her of anything. Not yet. So I did what most miserable, gutless men do. I started snooping. I know I shouldn't have touched it. I know all the people in those self-help forums say, if you have to snoop, the trust is already gone. But trust had already left the building, hadn't it? Just like I did. And Lorna? She didn't even bother chasing it. So yeah, one evening, while she was in the shower, I opened her laptop. Not to search for anything scandalous, not at first. I just wanted, I don't know, clarity? But the universe doesn't hand you clarity. It shoves it down your throat when you least expect it. Her laptop opened right up, no password. That surprised me. I almost took it as a sign that maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'd find nothing. Just boring work documents and a Pinterest board of kitchen tile ideas we'd never actually install. Instead, I found a folder on the desktop named Deck Drafts. I clicked on it thinking it was something from her advertising job. Inside were PDFs, proposals, but one was titled with a date, just a date, and curiosity got the better of me. It wasn't a deck. It was a scanned reservation confirmation for a hotel suite. 5-star, ocean view, king bed, champagne welcome. And it wasn't old. It was booked 2 weeks ago, for this coming weekend, for 2 guests. I don't know what made my heart race faster, the fact that it was real, or the fact that my name wasn't anywhere on it. I stared at the screen, trying to breathe, trying to tell myself maybe it was a surprise for us. Maybe she just forgot to mention it. Maybe I was being paranoid again. But then I checked the email tied to the reservation. It wasn't hers. It was his. Micah. Something at some generic domain. She'd forwarded it to herself. She was keeping it, hiding it. I felt like someone punched me in the chest with both fists. I sat there, frozen, listening to the shower still running like nothing was wrong, like the world hadn't just tilted 40 degrees sideways. I closed the file. I put the laptop back exactly where it was. And I sat on the edge of the bed until she came out, hair wet, face glowing from the steam, towel around her like a fresh lie. She smiled at me. That fake, breezy smile. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled back. Because now I knew. I knew something she didn't know I knew. And I wasn't about to scream or cry or fall apart. No, I was going to wait. Because sometimes silence is more dangerous than any fight. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her in bed, barely moving, listening to her breathing, soft, rhythmic, completely unbothered. Like she was already somewhere else. Somewhere with him. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the reservation again. The way the suite was described in the confirmation, romance package includes complimentary rose petals and champagne. The words repeated in my head like a sick lullaby. By morning, I made a decision. I needed proof. Not guesses. Not assumptions. Real proof. Something no gaslighting could twist. So, during my lunch break, I called the hotel. I didn't even try to disguise my voice. I just said I was calling to confirm the reservation under Micah's name. The receptionist was polite, too polite, and said yes. The suite was confirmed for Friday through Sunday. I asked, "Do you have the name of the second guest?" And there was a pause. Then she said, "I'm sorry, sir, we can't disclose that information for privacy reasons." That told me everything. If it was me, she would have said it. Yes, Mason and Micah are staying together. She would have joked or explained. But her silence confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't a surprise for me. This was a getaway for them. I hung up before she asked for my name. And I walked straight to the elevator, went down 10 floors to the parking lot, and sat in my car for 20 minutes without turning the key. Just sat there. I felt ridiculous. Weak. Like one of those men in movies who finds out his wife is cheating and just slumps in the rain like a broken umbrella. But I wasn't crying. No, I was planning. Because the trip was in 2 days. That gave me exactly 48 hours to decide. Confront her, expose it, blow it all up, or do something worse. Not violent, not illegal, but something that would make her feel everything I was feeling. Something silent, devastating, permanent. That night, I acted completely normal. I brought home dinner, Thai food, her favorite. I asked about her day. I even massaged her shoulders while she watched some trashy show on her tablet. She didn't suspect a thing. When she told me she was meeting her sister Friday night for a spa weekend, I nodded. "Oh, that's nice," I said, my voice calm. "You deserve it." She kissed my cheek and said, "You're being really sweet lately." I smiled. I almost choked. Because while she packed her little overnight bag full of lies, I was packing something too. Something far less obvious, but far more permanent. And once Friday came, she would walk into the biggest surprise of her life. Friday came faster than I was ready for. I watched her walk out the door at 6:12 p.m. sharp, wheeling a sleek little carry-on, wearing a denim jacket over a sundress I'd never seen before, probably bought just for him. She blew me a kiss from the elevator and said, "Don't wait up. Spa weekends can get intense." My throat dried up. I smiled anyway. She was texting before the elevator doors even closed. But here's the thing she didn't know. I hadn't just sat around waiting. I had someone watching. Not a private investigator. I couldn't afford that. But Thomas, my cousin, turns out he's better than a PI. He works in hotel security. Not that hotel, but he knows people. And those people owe him favors. So when I sent him the screenshot of the reservation, he didn't hesitate. "I've got a guy in the building," he texted back. "Want eyes on her." I hesitated at first. It felt extreme. Creepy, even. But then I remembered her giggling with Micah over dinner, forgetting I existed. I remembered the cake I couldn't eat. I remembered the way she smiled while lying to my face. So yeah, I said yes. And now, as she walked out the door for her spa weekend, I was already dressed, bag packed, car full of gas. I waited 15 minutes, then left through the back exit of our building like a ghost. I didn't go to the hotel right away. I drove to Thomas's place and picked up a black envelope. Inside was a guest pass, a copy of the hotel's floor plan, and the room number. "You sure you want to see it for yourself?" he asked me. I didn't answer, because I didn't want to see it. I needed to. I parked a block away from the hotel. Not for stealth, for nerves. I needed to breathe. Think. Back out, maybe. But I didn't. I walked in through the side entrance, nodded at the bellhop like I belonged there, rode the elevator to the 19th floor, and waited outside room 1907. I didn't knock. I didn't want a scene. I just listened. First it was quiet. Then I heard laughter. Her laughter. And then his voice. Deeper, closer, muffled by the thick hotel walls, but unmistakably his. I stepped back. My hands were shaking. But I didn't barge in. I didn't scream or cry or start pounding on the door like some jilted soap opera character. Instead, I slid a plain white envelope under the door, addressed to her, with my handwriting on the front. Inside, a printed photo of the reservation confirmation. A photo of her walking into the hotel with Micah, taken by Thomas's friend 30 minutes earlier. And a note. Just one sentence. "Happy anniversary." Because she forgot something else that day. It wasn't just Friday. It was our wedding anniversary. And I was done being forgotten. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car in the parking garage beneath the hotel, the engine off, radio silent. Just the sound of passing tires overhead and my own shallow breathing bouncing off the windshield. I kept staring at my phone. It was just past 8:30 p.m. when the first call came in. I let it ring out. She tried again 5 minutes later. Then again. And again. By midnight, she'd called 32 times and texted even more. The messages started short. "Mason, where are you?" Then they turned frantic. "Did you do this? Are you outside? Why are you doing this to me?" And finally, they turned defensive. "It's not what it looks like. We're just friends." This is crazy. Crazy? No. Crazy would have been me banging on the hotel room door while they scrambled to put clothes back on. Crazy would have been screaming in the hallway and ending up in some viral video titled, "Husband Loses It at Cheating Wife." What I did was colder. I didn't respond. I didn't even read all the messages. I left her alone in that luxury suite with the rose petals and champagne and the image of that envelope lying just inside the door like a curse she brought on herself. Eventually, around 1:10 a.m., the calls stopped. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. Not well, but I slept. The next morning, I went home around 9 a.m. The apartment was still empty. No sign she'd come back yet. I made coffee, sat on the balcony in my hoodie, and stared at the city like I was watching someone else's life unravel from a distance. She didn't show up until close to noon. I heard the key turn slowly, like she wasn't sure if she even had the right to use it anymore. I stayed in the kitchen, sipping from my mug. I didn't even turn to face her. When she walked in, she looked like someone who hadn't slept all night. Hair frizzy, face pale, clothes wrinkled. She set her bag down carefully, like she didn't want to wake a sleeping lion. "Mason," she said, soft like a wounded child. I still didn't look at her. She stepped closer. "Can we please talk?" "You want to talk now?" I asked, finally turning my head. "Now that the party's over?" Her mouth opened like she wanted to defend herself, but no words came out. She tried again. "It's not. Look, I know what it looks like, but what?" I interrupted. You accidentally checked into a romantic suite with your coworker on our anniversary? She blinked fast, like tears were coming. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. Didn't mean for what? I said, my voice suddenly too loud for the room. To get caught? To humiliate me in front of my family? To throw your marriage in the trash and then act shocked when it stinks? She took a step back, arms crossed like she was shielding herself from something invisible. I didn't plan anything. We were just talking. It got complicated. I didn't know how to bring it up. I shook my head. You didn't need to bring it up, I said. You broadcasted it. Then I walked past her, picked up the envelope she'd left on the counter after returning, the one I had slid under her hotel door, and I placed it gently in the trash. That was the only sound in the room. Because in that moment, I didn't care what excuses she had. What I wanted now was to disappear completely. She followed me down the hallway like a shadow that had just remembered it was attached to something. I didn't stop. Not when she said my name. Not when she grabbed my arm. Not even when she started crying. Mason, please, can you just stop for 1 second? I know what you think you saw, but it wasn't like that. I turned around, finally, not out of mercy, out of exhaustion. I stared at her. Really stared. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger who happened to know my Netflix password and the color of my toothbrush. You've got 5 minutes, I said flatly. Say what you need to say. She looked stunned, like she wasn't expecting me to give her space to talk. Like she thought I'd explode or cry or collapse into her arms like a fool in a drama. But I just stood there, arms crossed, eyes empty. She swallowed hard. We'd been talking at work for months. That's it. Just talking. I was lonely. Mason, you've been distant for a long time. You don't even touch me anymore. I actually laughed. Quietly. Bitterly. I stopped touching you the day you started recoiling from me like I was a burden, I said. But please, tell me more about how hard this was for you. Her face crumpled. I think she was still trying to find the right angle, the one that would make her look like a victim. It was never supposed to go anywhere. I booked the room to clear my head. I needed space. With him in the next bed? I said, is that how you usually find clarity? She covered her face and sank to the couch. I stood over her, not angry anymore, just sad, worn down. I think a part of me was already halfway gone before I slid that envelope under the hotel door. And then she said it. The thing I'll never forget. You left me no choice. That line cracked something inside me. No choice. I repeated. I cooked for you. I paid the rent. I celebrated your wins when you got promoted and said nothing when you forgot mine. I stood at my own birthday dinner and watched you flirt with a man who took my seat. And you think I left you no choice? She looked up, mascara streaked across her cheeks, mouth open like she might apologize, or scream, or collapse. But I didn't wait to find out. I went to the bedroom. I grabbed the bag I'd quietly packed the night before. And I walked out. No slamming doors. No dramatic monologues. Just the soft click of the lock behind me. I didn't go far. I didn't have a plan. Just a friend's couch and the silence I'd been begging for. But the craziest part? It's what happened next. When I stopped answering her calls entirely, that really broke her. Because when I finally let go, she finally woke up. The first 2 days on my friend's couch felt strange, like my life had been yanked out of its socket and was hanging crooked. I kept waking up expecting to hear Lorna brewing coffee or humming off-key in the bathroom. Instead, I woke up to the sound of my friend's old ceiling fan rattling like it was threatening to fall on my head. Honestly, it felt fitting. My phone kept lighting up. Missed calls. Voicemails. Messages sent at odd hours. At first I read them, then I didn't. Not because I was trying to punish her, but because every time I saw her name, my stomach tightened. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. By the 4th day, she stopped calling as often. And that's when something inside me shifted. I suddenly realized I was breathing easier, eating better, even laughed with my friend while we watched some dumb show. And for the first time in so long, I felt like me, not just the guy orbiting someone else's moods. On day 6, there was a knock at the door. It was Lorna, not dressed up, not wearing makeup. She looked small, the kind of small that comes from reality hitting you in the ribs. She held a paper bag with my favorite breakfast sandwiches and said, "Please, can we talk?" My friend stepped aside, and she walked in like she was entering a courtroom. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for everything. For not seeing you. For taking you for granted. For making excuses when you were hurting. And for Micah. That whole situation. I let it go too far. You didn't deserve any of it. Hearing it out loud didn't fix what happened, but it settled something in my chest. I finally saw her as a human being, flawed, confused, and painfully late to the truth. I sat across from her and said, "I'm not coming back right now. I need time." She nodded, tears forming but not falling. "I know. I just wanted you to hear me say I'm sorry while looking you in the eyes." It was honest. Maybe the first honest moment we'd had in months. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Not about blame, not about punishment, just about what went wrong and why we both stopped showing up for each other. And somewhere in that conversation, something softened. We didn't magically fix our marriage that day, but we agreed on something much better, rebuilding slowly, without pretending, without lies, without that gnawing sense of being invisible. And you know what? It felt good, really good. Over the next few weeks, we went to counseling. We set boundaries. We learned to actually listen again. There were awkward moments, uncomfortable truths, and a lot of emotional unpacking. But there were also slow mornings together, long walks after dinner, and laughter I thought we'd lost forever. I didn't forgive her overnight. She didn't expect me to. But she showed up, consistently, and for the first time in years, I felt chosen, seen, appreciated. And me? I finally chose myself first. Funny how doing that didn't end the marriage. It saved it. So yeah, I'm not the same guy who sat behind his own birthday cake wondering why no one saw him. Now I know my worth. And she finally sees it too.